go. Got a red light on my coffee mug. Means I gotta drink fast if I want hot coffee. All right, let's see here. Yeah. Well, hey there, Steve. Since you're first on, you get a special hello. Alrighty, guys. Well, we're going to get started in Matthew chapter 23. Where did we get to? We read down to 26 yesterday. So, verse 27, another woe. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you are like whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inside are full of dead man's bones and all uncleanness. Even so, you are outwardly appearing as righteous men, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. There's actually another woe here. I don't know if I have all my woes highlighted. Should I highlight the woes? Let's see here. Where are all the woes at? All right, we've got a woe in verse 13, verse 14, 15, 16. We had a woe in 23, woe in 25, woe in 27, woe in 29. So, yeah, we'll do the 27 and 8 there. We'll just go woe to woe, right? So, this really actually is a continuation of yesterday, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. But it's just the same idea of these whitewashed tombs. Now, here is the idea of a whitewashed tomb is... I've heard this put different ways. But what I understand, I've never looked up like the ancient documents, and I really like to do that because I don't know. When I became a pastor, here's a rabbit trail. Immediately I had this new conviction I'd never had before, which was I had some amazing Bible teachers teach me the Bible. And it's no different from what we're doing right now. People always ask, I hear it from, where did you go to school to become a pastor? I said, well, I went to Central Washington University and I took the industrial technology education major. I never went to school. I just learned the Bible, kind of like Peter, John, Mark, and Luke. It wasn't like schools can be great and you can learn a ton there. And I've been tempted to go back. If I had time, I'd love to go back to school where I could just, intentionally study even more. But at the end of the day, I just had great Bible teachers teach me. And so that's a rabbit trail on top of the rabbit trail. But when I became a pastor, what I learned is that if it was a history fact, something about culture, something about science, something about whatever it may be, I felt uncomfortable quoting it unless I did my own research. I couldn't just say, well, Chuck said it, therefore. If I can't tell you, then, and I know I've read this elsewhere, but I don't, so anyway, moving back to something I've read about, but, I don't understand totally. But in short, what I've read is that the tombs that at Passover time and other times, they would whitewash them, literally paint them, to make them stand out, because if you touched one, you'd be ceremonially unclean. And so that's kind of the idea. I think in the past I had thought it had to do just with a polished white looking tomb, but the main idea was that whitewashed, they're pretty, these tombs, but inside they're full of dead man's bones. So the whitewashing was so people didn't accidentally touch them and disqualify themselves from Passover or one of the other feasts. But Jesus is just making that point again. Outwardly, you guys look great, but inwardly, you guys are struggling big time. And so now verse 9, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. He says it again and again. Because you build the tombs of the prophets and adorn the monuments of the righteous, and say, if we had lived in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Therefore you are witnesses against yourself that you are the sons of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of your father's guilt. And so here, something, piece of glue stuck in my shirt. It's bugging me. So I'm going to keep picking at that because I have like one of those OCD tendencies of, why is there a piece of rice stuck to my shirt? You guys want to watch me peel rice off my shirt? Come on. Yes, I think it's glue. Okay. Hi, welcome to the RC Daily Bread. Thank you for joining me today. But he's just basically saying they're proclaiming their own guilt. They're showing like, no, like you guys are admitting your fathers killed the prophets. Now, here he goes, and instead of saying that, he says, serpents, verse 33, brood of vipers. He picked that one up from his cousin, John the Baptist. How can you escape the condemnation of hell? No one was half so compassionate to sinners, yet no one spoke. Oh no, that's what that's. I'm thinking about his. What was it? His presence at the night at the innocent gaiety of a village wedding was like the presence of sunshine. A bruised reed he would not break. His whole life was love. Yet on one occasion he demanded of the Pharisees how they ever expected to escape the damnation of hell. A little more of that James Stewart poem or piece on the person of Christ and the mystery of the divine nature of how he's this and he's that. He's just so kind and so gentle, and yet, how can you escape the condemnation of hell? And so here's the deal. Ironically, I'm going to pair up personal stories from 12 hours ago, no, 16 hours ago, and then about 16 minutes ago. Yesterday I was encouraging some of the guys, the young men who lead the Spanish Bible study at our church, Tuesday nights at 6:30, Revival Church, Spanish Bible study. Bring people who speak Spanish. They're going through Matthew, and I was encouraging them to start, ask questions, get people talking. And what chapter are you guys in? Chapter 3. So I just flip open at chapter 3, and it was John the Baptist saying, brood of vipers, right? And he was calling the Pharisees a brood of vipers. And so I was saying, like, well, when can you call someone a brood of vipers? Let's pretend that was really insulting to us today, as it was to them then, right? I mean, to them, that was extremely insulting. So when can you say something really insulting to people? And we discussed how it's like, well, if you're led by the Holy Spirit, and it's not just insulting for insulting, just calling him stupid face, right? Like you're saying something to get their attention and really shock them and get them thinking. Well, if you're led by the Holy Spirit, and sometimes we can say really forward things. 15 minutes ago, I hadn't been on Facebook all morning, and because I was trying to get to the live stream, but I saw someone commented on a post. I commented that, if we don't recognize that all the other religions lead to hell, I said, if someone doesn't believe that, well, I'm worried about what they do believe then. Because the gospel is Jesus Christ is the only way. And so then if you think that there's another way, that puts fear in my heart about what you really believe about the one and only way. And someone made the comment that only God judges. And it's like, right. It's kind of like the police officer arrests someone. And they're like, well, I thought only a judge could judge. It's like, right. But it's my job to introduce you to the judge. It's my job to identify that you're breaking a crime, and I'm going to set up an arrangement where you meet the judge. And that's kind of the idea, is like, yeah, only God judges. But sometimes, speaking forwardly in Jesus, right? When Jesus says, I just passed where I just said it. That to escape, yeah, brood of vipers, how can you escape the condemnation of hell? Jesus and John the Baptist, they knew how to prayerfully be forward and yet loving. Once again, that poem, or I don't know if it's a poem, it's not a poem, it's just a piece, well-written piece, right? A bruised reed he would not break. His whole life was love. And yet on one occasion, he demanded of the Pharisees how they ever expected to escape the damnation of hell. That's the idea, is that we need both in all Christians. And if you find that you've never done one of the two, or you rarely do one of the two, you need to be more Spirit-led. Maybe God has you in a sphere of people who don't need it. I mean, I'm not, all of our circumstances are different, but at the end of the day, there are times where you need to go and love on someone who is unlovable. Maybe some of you read that post I had about a dream I had a week ago, and it was really vivid. And it was about running into a transgender person in the locker room, in the showers. And to make a long story short, I emphasized in that moment, in the dream, in that particular instance, the discernment I got from seeing that person, I just went right on ahead with my locker room, take a shower activity. It was at the pool, if I, and I began to engage in conversation. And I just blew past a lot of stuff to just move to having a conversation and being real with someone and loving on them. Because in that moment, in that dream, I felt like that's what God was calling me to do. Very uncomfortable. And yet, that's what I think God wanted me to do. And yet, at another moment, perhaps you may be at a family dinner, Thanksgiving, and God tells you it's time to drop the H-bomb. You get to say the word hell around your family because they need to know. And it's only as the Spirit leads us. There are some people who just seem to love preaching on hell. They've got their signs, they've got their thing, they got their whatever. I mean, and it's just all they ever want to talk about is sinners going to hell. And there are other people who act like only God can judge because I brought up hell. And it's like, well, no, there's two sides to this coin, and they're both found in Jesus Christ. When you read the Bible and you learn about Jesus, no one was half so compassionate to sinners, yet no one spoke such red-hot scorching words about hell. That is the Jesus we worship. And the difference between him and us, well, there are a lot of differences between him and us, but a key one is that he had perfect discernment. He had perfect fellowship with the Father and the Holy Spirit. We don't, but that's the goal, right? I mean, that's what we aim for. We don't settle for less. We aim for the bar, and we know we'll never get the bar, but we aim for the bar, to be discerning and Spirit-led and listening to what God says to us about how to go about ministering to people. And so I would challenge you. If you think, I could just never tell people that you're going to burn in hell. Well, I challenge you. You need to settle today that if God told me you need to speak forward with these people, that you would be willing to be obedient and speak forwardly. And on the flip side, if God tells you you need to go and invite that transgender or whatever person, someone that maybe it'd be difficult for you, maybe for you it's not difficult, but for others it is, or whatever, but you need to take them out for a burger and don't even bring up their sin. Just talk with them. And if that's how God leads, that's what you do. And so it's about being Spirit-led. And so Matthew 23 is where Jesus was led by the Holy Spirit to just full broadside the Pharisees. He busts out every cannon and he lets them have it. Not too different than like when he makes the braids the whip and knocks over the money changers' tables in the temple. But Jesus knew. Jesus knew what they needed to hear. And so as we seek the Holy Spirit, he'll tell us what we need to say as well. Had a friend call yesterday. He's at a conference where he believes there's some false teaching going on. It's like, how do I handle this? What do I do? And it's saying, it's like, you just need to be Spirit-led. Because if the Holy Spirit says to stand up and rebuke the speaker amidst the middle of a session, then do it. But if it's not what God is leading, then don't do it. And maybe it's simply, you and your church walking out or whatever it may be. Just trust that God will open the door and try not to do things in the flesh. I'm going to actually go down to 36. Just wrap it up so we can kind of start tomorrow on a new page and a good last little bit. In verse 34, it says, "Therefore, indeed, I send you prophets, wise men, and scribes. Some of them you will kill and crucify, and some of them you will scourge in your synagogues and persecute from city to city." So he's kind of telling the future here. 35, "That on you may come all the righteous blood shed on the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the temple and the altar. Assuredly I say to you, all these things will come upon this generation." Now, 2 Chronicles 24:20. Let's see here. I have a note in my Bible, but my note might be wrong. 2 Chronicles, right? 24. Yeah. Joash, right? And Zechariah. So, for what it's worth, says son of Berechiah. I think I talked about this in Chronicles, that there's a good likeliness that he might be a grandson, and there's a reasons why the Berechiah and Jehoiada, he's called son of Jehoiada in 2 Chronicles. But all that said, it's worth noting, and this is my final little thing, it's just a nerdy fact. Abel, an A, Zechariah, a Z. Abel, the first person killed in the Bible. 2 Chronicles is the last book in the Hebrew Bible. So if you had a Hebrew Bible, which, he's talking to Jewish readers, right? He's talking to scribes and Pharisees. Essentially, Jesus was covering A to Z. All the prophets from Abel down to Zechariah, which was the last guy kind of killed, last prophet killed in their Bible. So some of the final chapters of their Bible. Assuredly I say to you, all these things will come upon this generation. And so this is where he stops with them. And he goes on to weep. So notice that too. Man, I've gone longer than I wanted, but here, the last 3 verses. Maybe I'll even repeat these, but "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather you, your children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. For I say to you, you shall see me no more, till you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." Zechariah, the other Zechariah, not the one that wrote the book, not the one we just talked about, but a different Zechariah. In his book in the Old Testament, it says that they shall look on him whom they've pierced and mourn for him as they mourn for one who mourns over their only son. Jesus mourns after Matthew 23. And that's just the final thing. I thought I was done, and then I thought I was done again. But if God calls you to tell people that they're going to burn in hell, right? If he calls you to the most forward, do know what Jesus does after this. He weeps. Okay? He's broken over this. And if we're called to be so forward and we're not broken, then there's a heart problem. There should never be joy in telling sinners they're going to burn in hell. There should never be a satisfaction in letting people know, because that's not Christ-like. He's willing to say the hard things. He's willing to be in your face, but his heart is torn as he does it. And so the challenges, I like challenging Christians. That's because it's just too easy for all of us to become fat and happy in our church that just kind of, but when we get pushed, we grow. And that's the catch is, are you as forward as you need to be sometimes? Are you too forward? Do you take joy in being forward? I think all of us can see on a spectrum, too gentle, too loving, too loving. You can't really be too loving, but you know what I mean? Too gentle, too easygoing, too laid back, too judgmental, too fire and brimstone, too. If the middle of that spectrum is perfection, which is Jesus Christ, all of us are on the spectrum and none of us are in the middle. None of us have hit the perfection of Jesus Christ. So your question is where do I fall on the spectrum? Am I too much this way or too much that way? God, how can I become more like Jesus? So that's what we've got for today, which means tomorrow we can start Matthew 24 and we will jump right on in. I forgot in Mark's gospel has the widow and the mites, but Matthew's gospel just jumps right on in. So there's no widow or mites tomorrow. We just gotta get right into the good stuff. So if you like learning about the end times, that'll be our topic for the next week or so. So God bless you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow morning, 7:30, here on the Revival Church page. Posting it to YouTube after it's done. God bless. I'll see you guys around. Coffee's cold now. See, the red light. I told you guys. See ya.